Hey YouTube, Chris here again, the Awkward Runner, and I've got some more FIFA content for you. As the video is described, I'm going to do a 46 down the line character again. I had got some feedbacks from some family members who've been watching the videos about FIFA being the background game for it, and the people who are interested in the D&D content are less interested in the FIFA content, but this allows me to put out a live stream and then also not have to edit the video. I don't have editing software, so I can just do this, play FIFA, and then put up my own audio content. So one of the things I wanted to get out of the way was a conversation that I've had on the Nerdarchy forums a while ago. I don't know if anyone that's on the Nerdarchy forums may have remembered this. I was the one that posted a question about Noah Atweiler, Spoonie's take on 3D6 rolling characters. 3D6 and straight down the line, make your character move on with life. Now, obviously the 4D6 replace the ones is kind of a, I think it's generically considered the normal dice rolling scenario for role player games now, but Spoonie did make good points about it being more like you got more connected to your character because they were constantly at risk of death. And one of my favorite videos that he does was Leaping Wizards from his Counter Monkey series that got to high levels. You respected them because they went through the shit to get that guy there. So I do appreciate the 3D6 system, and I believe it was Dave posted us to SR2 Joker, and he did what was basically considered a civilian game where they started out with a really low stats because of the 3D6 down the line kind of thing, where they had basically civilian stats. So the struggle's real in those kind of games, and that's fine. For my games, I usually run the 46 replace the ones is the base roll strategy, but I do like block 4, which is just a simple 21. You roll 21 numbers, you keep 18 of them, combine the 18 numbers you have in any way with 3 in each set to make your 6 stats. It's fun. You really get to see what kind of people you're playing with at that point, because your power gamers are going after the 18s right away, and your role players are trying really hard to make it as balanced and so that they're not losing out on anything. Yeah, it's really fun to see. But with that said, today 46, I'm going to go down the line on them, but I'm going to do replace ones still. Now, I'm not going to count this break, but the next stoppage in play will be my first dice roll, and we'll just go from there. Why build so many characters in a scenario where, I mean, at this very moment, I am currently in 0 campaigns? Why would I make so many characters? Well, making the characters are a lot of fun to me, but you also get an opportunity to invent some PCs or NPCs for campaigns that you may run later on. It's not the first time that I would have created a character in hopes to play him someday, and then eventually turn him into an NPC. That's kind of how Roderick Cloud, my king from my Heaton campaign, where he was the king of Heaton Prime, became to be. Originally, he was a bard. That I was really going to try to play a bard, and I was really going to be into it and really excited because You know,
It's his responsibility.
I've only heard good things about bards. I've never played one, and I had his character sheet done for months before I finally realized that I probably was going to be DMing a lot more than I was going to be playing, and to the point where I was going to be DMing and not playing. So Roger Cloud became a king of the territory that I started running, and it was glorious. I had a lot of fun with it. Now, Roderick has been a first name I've used more than once, because anyone in my roll a die here. 2 5s, a 6, and another 1. Okay, 2 6s and a 5, so 17 for strength. For anyone who played in my Stream Strider campaign, I had a king named Roderick Stream Strider, who was a water elf who held a tournament and ended up ultimately being assassinated by his family. Yeah, it was fun. But the Cloud, or the Roderick first name, has been used more than once. The Cloud last name has only ever been Roderick. I did dabble with the idea of maybe being Detron Cloud, but it didn't fit to me. It didn't make sense. Ooh. All right, second stat, a 4. I got another 5, so that's a 4. 2 5s and a 4 is a 14 for Dex. So yeah. So as far as names go, it's NPC building as well as PC building at the same time. It just depends on where you use the characters. Plus, if you ever have a session where your players are missing, or you have one player that can show up but the rest of them can't, I'll roll my third stat, you get an opportunity to use an NPC like that. I got a 6, a 4, and a 3, so I got a 13 for Constitution. You have an opportunity to allow them a fight, and a decent fight, because your characters should be comparable to theirs, whereas in the monster manual and the back of the player's handbook, those characters are meant for you to be able to beat them. The exception to that is the Tarrasque. No, you're not supposed to be able to kill the Tarrasque if you follow the lore and stuff. And with that said, people do all the time. You know, I hate to keep referencing Spoonie, but he makes a lot of good points, and one of his points was, if you stat it, they'll kill it. It was the name of one of his videos. Like, if you put stats to a creature and then put them in front of the players may try to kill it. So the best thing you can do, if you don't want something to die, is not stat it. Not bring it in is kind of more of the point. If you introduce the Tarrasque and then also give the stats to Tarrasque, the players may think they can fight it. Now, you could also just bring up that there's the possibility of a Tarrasque existing around here, and then bring up Stomps, but never really let the players find him. Then you're talking about, the how is he getting away thing. And, realistically, just avoid bringing in creatures and players that you don't want to die. That is kind of, I'll actually bring up Steve and Justin, my first two GMs DMs in my life. There was a monk, Steve, I hope you remember this. Steve made a monk who was shackled, and it just seemed like there was no way he was going to escape our wrath, our ire, or what have you. And lo and behold, I believe it was my guy. It may have been Justin's character, but I think it was my guy who walked up to him and hit him in the face, and he flipped over me and ran away. No rolls were made, Steve. He just did, because he didn't want him to die at that point. You can't, if you're going to make guys that can do that, then you're putting at risk your integrity as a DM, because then the players are going, well, who's to say that you're going to let any of your characters die? Roll my fourth set here, intelligence. 5, 6, and a 4 is a 15. So, yeah, it's another reason why I make a lot of characters, just because I expect that my NPC list will be gone through at some point. You know, I suspect that over time most of my NPCs would reach their dead point. Now, not all of my NPCs are you know, sent out to be killed, but you got to prep as if they're all a possibility of dying. Wisdom score, 2 6s and a 13, which is a 15 for wisdom. I'm rolling really good again. But I always prep for all of any character that I make. Like the scenario where Detron who I made yesterday, doesn't die. That scenario only exists if he doesn't get played. If I bring him to the table, if you hear his name at a table, obviously he has a chance of dying. But I wanted to have him on paper in 5th because I hadn't really put Detron, the true character of Detron, on paper yet. So, but today, the character we're looking at has a 17 in strength, a 14 dex, a 13 con, and 15s in wisdom and intelligence. So as of right now, he could play anything. Given the stat array that only allows you to get up to a 15, and the point buy, which only lets you get up to a 15, I'll roll my last stat here. Yeah, he's definitely got a chance to play anything. 2 4s, a 3, and a 1. I'll re-roll the 1. I got a 5, so I got a 13 for my charisma. So, yeah, he can. Against the stat array and point buy system, I obviously succeeded on beating it. I have a 30, another 30, 60. 74. I have 87 points spent. So this, his rolls are better than Detron's rolls yesterday. Better than my Druid's rolls, but not as good as my Dwarven Sorcerer's rolls. My Dwarven Sorcerer is still numerically the best character I have. Now, again, I didn't build this Dwarven Sorcerer optimized, so he is obviously not outright the best, but Detron would be optimized to be the best character. So, but let's see. For classes, he can play anything. I've done a fighter, I've done a druid, I've done a sorcerer. So I've done a lot. I've done 2 magic users, and I've done an upfront fighter. I'm melee combat. So I'm trying to think about what would be a good fit here. This is actually well, no. Yeah, kind of. I might be able to do a Xander here and do a Warlock, because I could do the Pack of the Blade and it wouldn't. I mean, initially it hurts him because of the 13 in Charisma. But I want to try to do some stuff I haven't done yet. So I made a Dwarf and a Sorcerer 2 characters ago, and I made a Druid, which I had never played before. And I had just talked about making a Bard, but I have made a Bard before. I just never used a Bard in game. So I'm looking at the class list, and realistically, the only one I haven't made to play character is the Paladin, and I still don't want to make a Paladin. But could probably make a Cleric. I don't know. That's tough. This is the problem. Again, I didn't have an idea going in, and the way these stats were rolled, I could basically be anything because the stats will just fall in my favor for that. Maybe I'll pick a race first. I haven't played a gnome or a half. So I also haven't built a straight elf yet. well, maybe I'll build an elf for you guys. We'll do that. Let's build an elf. So, off the table already is the drow, the dark elf, because, again, even the description tells you that there's only one that should be, that's considered good. And I don't make evil characters, even though I do have characters that come out neutral or chaotic neutral. I don't play evil.
It's going to be Napoli to make this change.
Even lawful evil is still evil.
Free kick given by the referee.
If people have seen me at the table, the chaotic aspect comes out a lot more than the good, evil, or neutral side. I do things on my own accord, like how I want to do them, but for the most part, it's my stable is that you don't play evil, because you're trying to be a hero, and you just offer out too many problems doing that. All right, so elf, we're looking at elf right now. They get a +2 to dex, so I'm just going to put the +2 here. That's a guarantee. So my dex is now a 16. They don't get a bump to strength, so the strength is a 17 no matter what. 2. So this is a really strong elf. He is the most strong. He will strong you to death. And that's, for an elf, that's, you always think of dex connected to elves, but this elf also has a little bit of the strength, the strengthy strength. Now their age doesn't really matter. Their alignment, I'm gonna put their alignment. I'm gonna make this guy chaotic neutral, just so he can get it so it's set. He kind of does what he wants, and that's gonna. Well, the neutral part again could shift based on what class I pick. We don't know which class it's gonna be at. Size, they're basically in my wheelhouse. They'll be 6 foot. They'll be skinny because they are. The base elf has 30 speed. They have dark vision. Dark vision's always good. It saves me on having to buy torches, which I know torches are cheap and you could make torches and shit like that, but not ever having to worry about that eventually over the length of a campaign ultimately could save you gold upon gold, which is you could use to buy cool things like the Gauntlets of Storm Giant. Why do I keep going back to the Gauntlets of Storm Giant? Like, I've had that in one campaign. In one campaign, I had the Gauntlets of Storm Giant. And immediately regretted doing it because my guy was a warlock. But that was his Xander thing. But anyways, keen senses, proficiency with perception. So I get perception, which is good. Fey ancestry, I can't be put to sleep. Trance, I don't need to sleep, which is cool. You would think, being that I don't like having the downtime of sleep for my guys, that I would have wanted to play an elf earlier in my D&D career. But no, it's just it allow me to do things like rituals and whatnot, and spend training time and it's getting prepared for the adventure a little bit more. So maybe that's what you got to look at here, is something that does casting, because I'll have basically a 4-hour gap where I don't have to I won't have to be on watch and I won't have to sleep. I can kind of prepare things. Ritual casting. So maybe a cleric. An elven cleric? Huh. See, that's going to actually bring in something to this character that I haven't done with the other ones yet. So that's maybe a good idea, because I haven't had to go look at the deities. Even though Dawnforge Cast does bring up that in Dungeons & Dragons you can't be an atheist. Or you shouldn't be an atheist. Now, I'm an atheist currently, in my real life. I don't believe in a god. I don't believe there's evidence for a god. I believe that people that believe that there's evidence for a god are looking at science and labeling it God. But in D&D, if you don't believe in a god, that would be someone who you would consider to be insane, because the gods are physically represented and physically in front of you at times. Like, there has been their actual beings come to the world. In my Heaton campaign, where Roger Cloud was the king, Mordor, Moradin, not Mordor, Moradin was the dwarven god of the forge and whatnot, the patron god of the dwarves, was on vacation, basically, and had become a barkeep in Heaton. My city was set up where Heaton was where all of the regular common people lived, and the castle was called Heaton Prime. It was up on a hill, and that's where Roger Cloud and all the merchants lived, or all the royalty lived. And each day, the common folk would go up there and do their sales and whatnot in the common grounds of Heaton Prime, and then come back to Heaton to live. And there was one of the first elemental powered train stations being built through there, so people could masses could come and go, but it wasn't finished yet, so it was still horse carriages that were doing most of the deliveries, and it was a good setting. But what was the point of the rant that I just went on that didn't mean anything to anyone? I don't remember. Wow. We're gonna, yeah. Anyways, I forgot. If I remember, I'll come back to it. And if you remember in the comments, leave one and let me know. So Trance, good. I'm gonna have 4 extra hours to do stuff. I should think about. Oh, that's what it was. It was the gods. So Morden was taking a vacation in running a bar in Heaton, and he had these 2 hammers that he stored his divine essence in. And what ended up happening was he ended up getting basically sapped by this creature, the evil guy in the story, and was mortal and dying because he was obviously very old. And the players had to bring him back, and it was awesome because it took a couple sessions for them to really catch on to the fact that the guy that they were dealing with was legitimately Morden. Like, they were like, well, yeah, the first few sessions, he wasn't even really addressed. They spent a lot of times going back to the castle and talking to the king and, doing minor quests and stuff. It wasn't until a couple sessions in that the Morden stuff started kicking in, and the players were like, oh my god, we're actually dealing with like a god here. And yeah, it was a great story, but we haven't done anything divine yet when it comes to these characters. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to say class, I'm going to say cleric. Now, it doesn't speak to his primary stat of his high stat, which is strength, unless he's up front hitting things. But the strength is also going to let him get heavier armors later on. And I've already made comments outside of the Detron character that I made. I don't really care for strength in 5th edition. You can play a decent character without even with an 8 strength. Everyone can play. If you want to be a fighter, you can be a dex fighter with 8 strength. It works. So with that said, I'm definitely not going to be picking the high elf now, because the high elf has a +1 to intelligence, but the wood elf has a +1 to wisdom. I need the extra wisdom point because that gives me a +3 modifier for my wisdom score. So I am going to be a wood elf cleric. Now, looking at the wood elf cleric, I get the +1 to my wisdom. I'm going to get proficiency with longsword, short sword, bow, and longbow, or short bow and longbow. I get fleet of foot, so I'm 35 speed.
AC Milan 1.
I better write that down. I get one. I get. No, I don't want to say square, but I get 1 additional movement piece, I guess. And then Mask of the Wild, I can attempt to hide even when I'm lightly obscured. Okay. in the FIFA game, anyone that wants to look up at the screen, there's a transfer window. There's been a transfer offered to me. I don't want to move again. If it's not back, if I don't go back to Southampton, then I'm just going to try to stay with Napoli, unless they force me to move. But Mask of the Wild, I get an obscured, obscured light foliage or heavy rain. I can attempt to hide, which is cool. It's not going to lend themselves too well to a cleric, unless I pick a nature cleric or a trickery cleric, which I guess we should probably go look at them. Cleric is one of the most diverse classes, and it's one of the only classes that gets its major type pick at first level. What I mean by that is the clerics get a domain, and clerics get their domain at first level. So whereas a wizard, you have to pick your school at level 2. The warlock, you get some of your stuff at level 3, or level 2 and level 3. The cleric's going to get it right off the top. Now, a base cleric is what we need to look at first, and then we'll go into picking a domain. But and I don't even get to play. I don't even get to play in my friendly USA game. I haven't been in a USA jersey in a while. So a cleric gets 1d8 plus their con mod. My con mod right now is a 1 because I have a 13 in the score. Again, 10 and 11 is 0 modifier. 12 and 13 is 1 modifier. 14 and 15 is 2 modifier. 16 and 17 is 3 modifier. 18 and 19 is 4 modifier. And 20 is 5 modifier. And all that means is when you're doing your attacks and stuff, you get to add that number from that stat. So I'm in a US jersey for this one, but we're going back to the HP. It's 1d8 plus my con mod, so my first level will be 9 HP. Not super good, but I think it lends more to the idea that he's probably not going to go up front.
It's a friendly international by name.
Probably not going to go up front.
A dress rehearsal really for crucial competitive games
okay,
ahead.
so we get all weapons, or all simple weapons, no tools, wisdom and charisma are my saving throws, which is cool. Wisdom is my casting stat. Obviously, I think that's usually how they go if your casting stat is one of your saves, because you should be good at your casting stat. I get to choose 2 skills from history, insight, medicine, persuasion, and religion. Well, I think one of those have already been made, because we went out of our way to make this character because we haven't rolled a divine character yet. So religion is going to be on the list, because we want to make sure that we have this character has the ability to understand religiosity. We need someone that can talk to the gods, so why not? If this guy was going to join my other guys that I have made, this would be the one that you're asking the difficult questions. You know, what's the purpose of life? Why do you follow your god? You know, and I think with that said, that kind of lends to what the second choice here is for skills, and that's history. He's got to have to know stuff that connects to the religion too, which is cool. All right, we can work with that. That's not bad. I already got perception from being an elf, so when I pick my background for this character, it's all just falling into place, you know.
And a different angle.
So let's see here. Where are we at? We got equipment. Okay, here comes our first problem. A mace or a warhammer if proficient. Well, I'm going to take the mace. He's probably never going to use the mace. I get proficiency with long swords and short swords. I will probably give him a long sword when I get the opportunity to buy him one. Or again, this is another scenario we talk to your DM and be like, listen, I'm an elven cleric. I would have never been given a mace. every elf is trained to use a longsword or sword. That's why it's part of the racial thing, you know. So yeah, I would just ask to have that traded out later on. Okay, scale mail, leather armor, or chain if proficient. Okay, so the chain is or proficient, but I can have scale or leather. So we know from Detron that leather is 11 plus my dex mod, which is 16. So I have a +3 right now. But the scale, I think scale is still medium. Isn't it the high-end medium? I'll go look. Equipment. Scale. Yeah, scale is 14 plus my dex mod, max 2. Okay, so this is going to be something that I don't like to do because I feel like it devalues the stats I already have. But I'm going to take the scale mail, and that means I'm only going to be able to add 2 to my dex there, but it's going to get that right there gives me a 16 AC. So the 9 HP is less scary, and I could probably go up front if need be. But there again, the skill might change depending on which domain I pick. I was thinking about taking nature, but again, I haven't taken a guy that's put himself in heavy armor either, and weird that it would be a cleric, but again, this cleric wouldn't carry a mace. Maybe he doesn't wear scale mail either. But yeah, well, let's put him in the scale mail. We'll have him scale mail. Let's see. We'll take the light bow, the light crossbow, and the 20 arrows, because we do want to have some opportunity for range, and realistically, that might be his primary attacking weapon. He might use the bow, which lends him to being able to make up for the damage. I may take a domain that allows me to have either multiple attacks or the trickery. I think I might be able to get advantage or something like that. He might not be, his importance may not be in the damage dealing, obviously. I could make him a life cleric and just be a super healer. Which, I guess that brings up another good point that I could discuss before I move on with the character, is roles in a group. Every person that's ever posted a YouTube video about role-playing games has eventually gotten to this conversation, because it's asked all the time. You know, is it important to fill roles? No, it's not. Is it essential to fill roles? Everyone should be able to come to the table and play whatever they want to play. With that said, why doesn't that happen? Because ultimately everyone wants to make the damage dealing guy, and the group is hurt by that because there's a lack of support or meat, that ultimately ends up being the problem. Your guys that do heavy damage aren't really early levels pay attention to making sure that they stay up. So people get knocked down a lot in that scenario, and I was part of one of those before we left. Again, I made that Dragonborn monk in a campaign that didn't last that long, but we had 3 guys in the group to start the campaign, and all 3 of us went damage dealer. All of us made characters that did damage, and that was the entirety of our group. No healing. As a monk, I had the highest AC, but mine was only like a 14 or 15 or something like that. It was a poorly put together group as far as making characters. Again, we make characters in front of each other, so we all heard this stuff, but I think we all knew that this campaign wasn't going to last that long, so we were kind of a little bit looser with our strategies. But normally, you want to make your characters together, again, because then you talk to everyone, and I am the kind of player that if I hear a whole bunch of DPS and not hear anything about a tank, I know the term doesn't, people don't like to hear the term unless you liked 4th edition, but your tanks and your healers control needs to be there at some level. So, you know, is it necessity? No. I mean, if your DM sees your characters built and everyone really wants to play the characters that they already have, and there's not a whole lot of nudge room for maybe getting a little bit of support, or, you know, switching from a pure DPS stance to more of a tank role kind of thing, then, you know, your DM's got to adjust. That's what makes good DM. That's what makes good DMs, is the guy that can adjust on the fly, and not the guy that's, well, I made a campaign where it's this and this and it's only this and this, so you guys have to make characters fit. The DM's supposed to adjust, not the players. But you should, as a group, and if you're good players, you should be able to understand why you need a healer and a controller. That's my rant for that. Sorry, I apologize. Back to equipment. I take the Explorer's Pack. Every time. Yeah, he was a cleric, but he was a cleric. I'm going to say this guy was a cleric back home, but they needed him to go out in the world for some reason. So, you know, he's been asked to go out into society and do some stuff. So he's given the Explorer's Pack, and I would never take the Priest Pack. That's just ridiculous. You also get a shield and a holy symbol. The shield plus the armor plus my dex mod gives him an 18 AC. By far the strongest guy going into, or the first level that I've had, AC wise. Now, if he gets hit, he's at risk of falling down because his Constitution score wasn't that high. But the way that I built this guy, or the way that the numbers came down for him, I could work on Constitution during the game. I could go out and take a feat or give him some +2s and not really lose out on anything for the character, because I'm gonna fight with the long sword or the short sword. I can hit already with the +3s and the proficiency bonus. So give me a +5 to hit with a long sword or short sword. My spell casting is also a +3 right now. So again, I have a +5 to hit with my spells. So all of those are even and fair and equal. Going and spending some points on Constitution to make him a little bit more strong to not fall. Not impossible. Definitely not impossible, because it wasn't saturated point buy. And if this cleric was saturated point buy, I would not have been able to avoid putting points in Constitution. I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't have been able to go strength and dex at +3s. I would have had to have, obviously, because you only get one plus. You can get 2 +3s, but you're not guaranteed any +3s. The people who go for balanced characters struggle with the idea that they will not hit as often, because they're gonna only get +2s on point rate or stat array or point buy. Okay, so that's the base equipment for a cleric, and a couple of different rants from me. Spellcasting, I should probably look at that list. I get 3 cantrips and 2 first levels. So it's all going to depend on what I think is important for his spells. I don't know, because again, the last time I played a cleric, I played a cleric that ended up becoming a cleric rogue, and that was early on in my 5th experience. Who was that? Who was that guy that did that? Ranaka was his name. And he was a war cleric, and he was a rogue. So I used sneak attack, and then I used my war domain feature, which allowed me to have another attack. And I basically, and if these break the rules, guys, it already happened and it already stopped. So I'm not going to go fix it. I don't think it breaks the rules though. I would use a crossbow and go high, and then take multiple crossbow attacks from sneak attack, extra damage. You know, and as far as growing as a character, the next thing I got myself that did additional damage. I believe it was additional fire damage, and I just kept doing that. But he dies. He dies in the story. I got caught in a scenario where I was in melee and tried to thunder wave my way through a couple guys, and I was not the true damage dealer. Yes, I took War Domain. I took War Domain and a bunch of healing spells because I wanted to get multiple attacks in so I could do a little bit more damage, but I wasn't strong enough to take on a group of people, and ultimately my Thunder Wave didn't knock them down to save me, so they ran me over on their turns and he died. Character deaths? I don't care. They're in campaign. Obviously, I care about my characters not having to make new characters and losing characters because I get attached to the characters I make. But that was early in my playing career. Now that I understand that I can make characters for NPC sake, and then also be able to have them statted out just in case I ever wanted to play them, I care less about the idea of, and does it make me make stupid mistakes? Well, not really, because when you go to the table, you're not the person that's supposed to be making the decisions. You're supposed to be making the decisions around your character's decisions. So when Renaka dies, it's not because I was like, well, I've got to run away. Chris thinks that he's got to run away. No, Renaka's like, well, I could knock these guys all down right now, and then our fighter is going to be able to get up front or get closer to these guys and get rid of them for me, and I'll be helping the team. And yeah, I just failed I failed to knock anything down. So just an unlucky dice roll. It happens. Okay, so we did the spells, we did the elf. Now we're going to go to backgrounds, and let's talk about the backgrounds real quick before we actually pick one. There's a couple that I'll never pick, and the ones that make more sense for this character. Why would I pick Acolyte? Insight, religion, the flavor for them. You spent your life in service to the temple of a specific god or pantheon of gods. Yeah, but I guess I just don't look at clerics the same way as I don't look at D&D the same way everyone else does, I guess. I'm gonna pick a god because the god picked me. When you read a backstory for a character, it's before you become an adventurer. So your backstory should give insight to how you became an adventurer. And I'm not going to say that I was working at a temple and I was already a worshiper of this god, then he glow lighted me to make him the voice of him. No, that's silly. To me, that's silly. I don't like that. I'm gonna say that he was. I'm gonna go to Sage. I like Sage as a background because as far as helping a character roleplay and stuff, Sage covers a lot of the ground. I'm gonna say that a god went out of their way to find me. It makes your character more important. If you've always been worshiping this god, they could have, and let's say there's a temple, you're at a temple and there's 50 of you in the temple. You had a 1 in 50 chance that he picked you. But if you weren't a worshiper of the god beforehand, and he went and found you, you were the chosen one. there's a 1 in 1 chance that he was going to be awesome. That makes you that much cooler going into the story. And it also, again, why were you picked? Is there a cult that has an issue with that god and now has an issue with you? Does the temple that represents that god have an issue with you because you were an outsider chosen by him? That's how you get lawful good people or good people to do bad things when they think they're doing it in the name of someone that's bigger than them. I like that. I'm digging on that, actually. I'm really digging on the idea of I don't know, librarian. The Sage Librarian. And he's going to... and I understand I didn't pick the domain yet. I was going to do that next because I think it would work better with the background. But so a Sage Librarian, librarian, whatever. I get 2 additional languages, so I'm gonna put languages, the terms there. And I'm not going to do my traditional 3 kingdoms decisions when it comes to my languages this time, because of what he does as a librarian. And he's already an elf. So he has common, he knows Elven. Those are 2 of them. Sage is going to give me 2 more.
It's agonizing when it's this close. Not long left.
The one that I think jumps out in this scenario is Draconic. Because you're talking about ancient scripts. But like before the elves may even have been considered like walking earth, there could have been the dragons. And I think I want to do something like Celestial. I think might be the next one. So the library, I mean, he's obviously focused in on more of the history and religion of society, but not to the point where he's the devout worshiper of a god, which is going to be interesting. So I'm gonna say Celestial. So he's already kind of like, there's already that lean towards the divine, but he's never looked at it as a religious thing. He's always looked at it as, well, I'm a researcher, and my research is based around creation, deities, and the history of life, but none of it is directly coincided or tied to my belief in any of the gods. And then lo and behold, one of the gods is going to come speak to him. And I think we're not going to choose one of the domains that would benefit his attacking or anything like that. Oh, wow. I skipped over doing all the Sage stuff. So I picked Sage Librarian. They get 10 gold pieces to start off. Not a lot. Actually, I think that's the smallest of the backgrounds, which is fine. I mean, I've never been too worried about the gold in this scenario. Now, what kind of attitude am I going to give this person? They might be a little bit more snooty because of their, I'm going to pick 6 for personality traits. Because I speak slowly when talking to idiots, which almost everyone is compared to me. It's funny because, I mean, his intelligence is a 15. He's reasonably smart, but obviously if there's a wizard in the group, the wizard's going to be like, yeah, I know. Stop talking to me like that. Or if he runs in, he's going to think he's better than people. It could get him in trouble. But, again, I think that speaks to what domain I'm going to picking. I'm holding on to that. I'm not going to say it out loud because, I mean, I think at this point, people who would watch this video would be like, well, there's only one that makes sense to the way he's talking about it. But again, I'm going to pick one ideal. I'm going to go with logic. Emotions must not cloud our logical thinking. And again, with ideals, I pick one because there's something fleshed out in the backstory. I always write a backstory for a character. For anyone who ever plays with me or ever is DM'd by me, if you make a character and you don't have at least one full good paragraph, 5 sentences of information, I don't accept it. I ask for more information. In that way, I've been called the teacher when it comes to me DMing because I want good quality information. And I feel like a backstory ultimately gives the crux of a player. You don't know how a player is going to act or a character is going to act until you've seen what they've already done in their lives. Now, you could have had a conversion story, like a paladin who was a drunk that before he took on his deity's mission was a bad person, and then that switched once before. But that's the backstory you need to hear. As a DM, if I hear that I have a paladin who was once a drunk, I'm going out of my way to put him in bars and test his faith, because that's what you want. That's good role playing opportunities. You know, if there was a womanizer that became a paladin or some of religious standing, while they're walking through the city, there's a brothel, and the women are paying extra attention to him. Maybe an assassin in the brothel, i.e. Game of Thrones kind of thing that's going on in Dorne. No, or not Dorne, I'm sorry. In wherever Tyrion is right now. Where the Masters and the Sons of the Harpy are connected to the brothel.
He's given the free kick with no sign of the card.
One of the women specifically at the brothel is kind of heading the assassinations and murders and whatnot. So I like that. As far as the ideal that I chose, I want this guy to be... cold might be too strong of a word for him, but I'm tapping into one of my other personality traits where I don't like arguments made of emotion. If you don't have facts to back your argument, then you're not really having an argument. You're telling people how you feel. And in our life, in our society, with some people, I'm not going to name names, but there are scenarios where their whole life outlook is based around an emotion. I don't like that. Your life should be based around facts. And if you want laws and whatnot, scientific laws make the most sense. Anyways, a bond. The first thing you see when you see bonds is I have duty to protect my students. This guy would have never been left in charge of students. There would never have been anyone who would have been like, oh yes, you know what would be really good for helping a student grow educationally and academically? Let's put him with name here. I haven't came up with a name yet. I'm gonna do 5 for bonds. And 5 is, I've been searching my whole life for the answer to a certain question. And again, going around the theme of creation and history and whatnot, just it'll be something along the lines of the beginning, but not necessarily how did we get here kind of thing. Again, he's an elf. His family, his line could go back to the beginning of the first elves. It might be why he became a librarian or a historian, is because he has one of the longest lines, and he's just like, well, I need to know. I want to know what was before elf, what happened, what was life before that. And there has been writings about the creations and stuff like that, but The common man may not know that. The common man may not have that information available to them. And so he goes out searching for that. And that may have led him to be like, okay, well, what about the gods? And what about, you know, historically speaking, when did they make their presence to Earth and stuff like that? Or whatever you call the planet that you have your game centered on. It brings up some very human, real world questions without forcing the issue of where are we from. Again, the people that ask the question, it depends on, you know, what kind of person you're asking. Because there's a lot of people that are just going to be like, they're going to refer you to something instead of giving you what they believe. Flaw? I'm going to go with 1 there for flaw. Easily distracted by the promise of information. That will lean towards why a librarian would leave the library and start taking to adventuring. And it's going to deal with the information that I've been holding out on this whole time.
Over the touchline.
My domain. And obviously, for those who have played D&D at this point, you've probably figured out that I'm going to take the domain of knowledge. And why? Because I was talking about my deity finding me. Well, they're going to go, man, this guy has been doing his work. He's been trying really hard to find out the answers. And I want to be able to help him find the answers. Maybe not to life, but there's an answer that he wants all answers, and I can lean him towards a answer. And the knowledge domain makes sense. And realistically, spell-wise,
I think attacking players favor I think they do, yeah.
I'm more likely to take more cleric-y spells anyways. Command and Identify. I might take Identify. I will take Identify. Because Identify keeps people alive. And here's why. Many a time in campaigns, you run across an item. And you're like, oh, well, it's got magic on it. I'm going to put it on. And a few times the DM has already planned that item's going to be cursed to where you can't take it off, and the ill effect is some other equally bad event. I know my DM Mike, in my last group before I moved here from New York to New Mexico, cursed an item to our dwarf. That was it to our dwarf? I think it was to our dwarf. Dave, our dwarf, who it basically made it like a feminine looking feature on this like rough and tumbled fighter. It was funny, but still, Identify is important because you should be able to identify if there's a cursor there, and if not, identify that a curse is there. Be able to understand that there are multiple enchantments or magics put on top of this item. It should be able to help you there. Now,
it was very impressive the way they
the knowledge domain.
To keep the build-up going, to sustain the pressure.
What to do with the knowledge domain? So at level 1, you get Blessing of Knowledge. At first level, you know you learn 2 languages of your choice. Guys, that puts me at 6 languages without doing anything. If I took Linguist, I would know all languages. So I'm going to take Dwarven, and I learned that from being while I was a cleric. It helps with the backstory again. Now, my god comes to me, and he goes, or his messenger or whatever speaks to me, and tells me that I'm now a mouthpiece of this deity, or I need to do the works for this deity, and notices that I'm lacking one of the three kingdoms. He's like, you don't speak Dwarven? How are you a librarian that doesn't speak Dwarven, but yet you know all these things? Like, the Dwarven culture has so many pieces to creation and history. And a DM could look at that and go, wow, I could make a whole campaign based around going into Dwarven ruins. Or seeking out Dwarven kings and stuff like that, because this cleric directly works for a god of knowledge, and it was pointed out to him that he didn't know Dwarven. Or Dwarvish. So I do get one more language, and I think I just take Abyssal. So now I know both sides of the duality that is good and evil, as far as angels and demons and stuff. I know the Elven, I know Dwarven, I know Draconic, and I know Common. I'm in really good shape for going into a scenario and being able to read it. My cleric rogue, who was not as skilled with languages, did have this same thing kind of happen to him, where there was a building that we came across where we were supposed to take down some thieves and retrieve some magic items. A black market was opened at this point, and we were supposed to get the items and return them to the market. The regular market kind of starting to shut down the black market. Well, there was some sigils on the wall that ended up being a way to look through the solid wall, so that from the outside we could watch as they were bringing stuff into this building to hide it, so we knew where it was, so that we didn't have to go into combat if we didn't want to. Well, the sigils were Draconic, and it just so happened that I had taken Draconic on a whim, and lo and behold, I was able to tell everyone, hey, we need that, we can use that, we don't necessarily need to go into combat. Sorry. Which actually made our Dwarven fighter kind of upset, because he was looking for a combat. But still, our Dwarven fighter, he got a lot of fighting in the time that we played together. So I think missing out on a fight is not necessarily the worst thing that could have happened. Where were we? 2 additional languages were good. Second level stuff, 6th level stuff. We're not worried about the leveling stuff. We could later, maybe in a different video, I'll do a audio on leveling a character, and maybe this is the character to level, because cleric could be fun. Plus he's already got a lot of languages. I think languages are more important than skills. Again, if you're able to talk in the common tongue of a person, you may not need to use persuasion or intimidate. You may be able to convince them just by respecting their culture to be able to get some things done. Now, some DMs are going to see your trick and be like, oh, you talk to the Dragonborn and Draconic because you want to try to touch them emotionally. It offends them that someone who's not Draconic in nature tries to speak his tongue and he becomes enraged. And then you lose that scenario. Well, but there again, you're an elf and you go to a Dwarven kingdom. Wow, that was badness. And, you know, you speak in Dwarven, that might go over well. Where a Dwarven king or a Dwarven lord or something would be like, well, for an elf to even consider speaking Dwarven tongue in a conversation is speaking to the honor of the dwarves, kind of thing. So the spells at first level that I could take, or do I get? I get Command and Identify, I believe, is how that works. I get Command, Identify, and then 2 more, but I only have 2 first level spots to use.
And the cross comes in now.
So
Safety first.
I did make a point that I would use Identify, and why I would use Identify. Using Command, yeah, not so worried about using Command, because I think the other side of Command is that they know, and then they could become enraged or angered from the fact that you use a spell on them. And it's not what I want to do with my day. Oh, I hit the crossbar! Almost had a goal. So, yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to do that. But I do have to pick some spells out. So we're going to go up here. This is going to time out pretty well, I think. I'm going to go out, pick some spells. Oh, my guy's getting pulled. Oh, that's sad. Okay, so it's not going to get timed out as well as I thought it was going to. I thought I was going to pick my spells and this game was going to be over and that was going to be it. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'll pick the spells really quick before the video ends. And we'll do an hour and a little over an hour. Again, if anyone has any questions about my build, you can get a hold of me on Twitter at awkwardrunner, OCKWARD runner, or you can leave a comment, like, and subscribe the videos if you are digging the content I'm giving you. Let's pick some videos. Or wow, let's pick some cantrips for our character. We're gonna pick Sacred Flame because it's the most cleric of cantrips. And then we already have Dark Vision, so Light's not necessary. Let's do Resistance and Spare the Dying. So our cantrips are picked. And then our first level spells, we're going to go ahead and do Cure Wounds because we're going to do Healing Word. And then we're also going to do man, I think I'm just, I don't know. This is tough. I'm going to say Detect Magic. Oh, and I guess there's one more thing we got to do. I know that you guys are just staring at the screen, and I apologize for that, but we do have to go pick a deity real quick. Deity of Knowledge. Because that was this whole video is supposed to be based around. So I'm going to go to Forgotten Realms. I'm going to go look at a knowledge domain. I see 1. I see 2. Okay, I'm going to take Denier, God of Writing. And the idea for this character, who is an elf. Oh, there's another thing I'll fix for you guys real quick before we go. Here, I'll go show you some stats while we're doing that. Oops, wrong one. Go. Player stats. We'll go look at the league leaders. I'm going to go to Elf, and I got to pick a name here. So I need a family name. I'm going to pick, let's see. If I remember correctly, the way that these names are set up is the first half is the second part of the word, right? Yeah, so Ama is flower. I'm not going to do that, but that means I can do Laya. And I'm going to do, let's see. And I'm going to do Celadonal as his last name. Sayadadel, which is Moonbrook. And I'm going to call him Val. Nope, that's a child's name. Varys. And that is Varys Sadal and the Wooded Elf Cleric. And now we're going to take a look at the stats real quick. So I'm not in the European League anymore. And unfortunately, I don't know what league I'm in. Oh, there I am. I am in Series A TIM. Goals, I've only got 1. since I've been in Napoli. That's no good. But I also have an assist. So I'm on the top of 2 lists. Oh, the season just started too, so I'm not that far behind. No yellow cards, no red cards. I have top score. So those are the stats right now. I'm still on Napoli. We just made ourselves a Wood Elf Cleric named Varys. Not bad. And until Friday, guys, I will see you later. Have a good day.